The tale of Mr. Etim and his wicked wife. It was a quiet day in the village when Mr. Etim returned. The air felt heavy, like the weight of his shame. He had once been a man of pride, but now, with empty pockets and a broken spirit, he walked the dusty path back home. Years before, Mr. Etim had left the village with dreams bigger than the sky. He moved to the city, eager to make a name for himself. With a steady job at a big company, he earned enough to send money home, helping his family and building a better life. But his greatest mistake wasn't his job, it was marrying Ada, a woman whose beauty captivated him but whose heart was filled with greed. At first, Ada seemed perfect. She was charming, always smiling, and promised him a bright future. But as the city lights faded into the distance, her true nature began to show. With every pay raise Mr. Etim received, Ada wanted more clothes, more jewelry, more lavish parties. She spent his hard-earned money like it was water. Despite his long hours at work, Mr. Etim found himself always short on cash. "We need to impress our friends," Ada would say, her eyes sparkling with desire. "If we don't show them we have money, they'll think we're poor." Mr. Etim wanted to please her, so he kept giving in, even when his bank account began to dwindle. Then, one fateful day, everything changed. The company he worked for was downsizing. He was called into the office, and the words felt like a knife cutting deep. "We have to let you go, Mr. Etim. We are sorry." He walked out feeling lost, his dreams shattered. What would he tell Ada? When he got home, he found her on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up when he told her the news.
"What do you mean you lost your job?"
She snapped. "You must find another one. We can't live like this." Her words felt like poison, and Mr. Etim realized he was no longer the man she admired. He was a burden. Days turned into weeks. Mr. Etim searched for work, but jobs were scarce. Each time he came home empty-handed, Ada's anger grew. She stopped cooking and barely spoke to him. "You're a failure," she would hiss. "You promised me a good life." The last straw came one rainy evening. Mr. Etim returned after a long day of searching. He found the house dark, and when he turned on the light, Ada was packing her things. "I can't live with a man who can't provide," she said coldly. "I'm going to stay with my sister." As she walked out, Mr. Etim felt a part of him die. He realized the woman he loved was gone, replaced by a selfish stranger. With no job, no wife, and no money, he made the hardest decision of his life. He would return to the village. When he stepped off the bus, the familiar sights of his childhood greeted him. The dusty roads, the smell of earth after rain, and the warm smiles of the villagers brought a sense of comfort. They welcomed him back, their kindness easing his heavy heart. Days turned into weeks in the village, and slowly, Mr. Etim began to heal. He found work on a local farm, earning just enough to live. The villagers shared their meals, and their laughter filled the air. He realized that in the city, he had lost touch with what truly mattered, community and love. As the sun set each evening, Mr. Etim would sit by the river, watching the water flow. He learned to appreciate the simple joys of life, things he had forgotten while chasing riches. One evening, as he watched the sunset, he understood something important. He was no longer a failure. He had found himself again. Months later, word came that Ada was back in town, looking for him. The villagers warned him. "She is still wicked, Etim. Don't let her back in." He listened, but deep down, he knew he had changed. He was stronger now, wiser. When Ada finally found him by the river, her expression was a mix of surprise and regret. "Etim, I need you," she said, her voice shaky. "I've made mistakes." Mr. Etim looked at her, no longer the man who would do anything to please her. "I'm not the man you left, Ada. I've found a new life here, one that is rich in love and friendship. He turned away, leaving her standing alone, realizing the emptiness of her greed. And so, Mr. Etim built a new life, surrounded by the warmth of his village. He learned that true wealth isn't about money, it's about the people who stand by you when times are tough.